Thank you very much for joining us here at the Reusable Packaging Learning Center at a very special event, as it's part of a celebration of an excellence award of what's taking place in the market regarding reusable packaging. But it's also a great learning experience, as we're pleased to have our award winners come and talk about the winning submission and to give evidence of the impact that it has on the operation. Real pleased to honor two industry-leading companies that have been long-standing members of our association. The primary user winner is the Kroger company. With 2,800 stores in 35 US states, under 24 different banners, the Kroger company is indeed one of the largest retailers in the world. And they've gotten that way through tremendous business operations and recently paralleling their efficiencies of their business with sustainability initiatives, including the adoption of reusable packaging systems within their operations. So very pleased to have them being honored as far as some of the work they're doing with a specific project and a product called the CleanPal pallet from another member of Polymer Logistics, who's our other award winner for this submission. So thank you. Polymer Logistics is a global leader in pooling systems with reusable plastic containers, and in this case also pallets. They work with asset management and technology to really drive savings, but also with retail-ready packaging. So they're designing products that are built to use for one-touch systems all the way into the retail environment and allowing them to be displayed and merchandised real effectively and allow for those beautiful displays that take place. So they're bringing innovation with reusable packaging products that not only are on a functional standpoint, but also in a very appealing standpoint in terms of delivering that product fresh to retail environments and customers in the greatest shape possible, but also in a way that can be displayed out of these containers. So these innovations and how products are being used and the value they offer all the way down to the store level is providing a tremendous opportunity for reusable packaging and the value that it brings to operations like the Kroger company. This session will really involve three parts. This is the first more introduction where we're going to hand out our award trophies to our two winning companies. Then we're going to listen to a case study presentation with our winners here about the winning submission. And then finally, we're going to end this session with a brief interview where I'm going to sit down and talk with them more about their products and their adoption of sustainable practices, in particular Kroger's Zero Hunger, Zero Waste initiative that we want to learn a lot more about. So without further ado, we'd like to welcome Joe O'Connor with the Kroger company and Paul Pedersen with Polymer Logistics to the stage. So, Joe, thank you on behalf of the Reusable Packaging Association and industry. Thank you to the Kroger company for being a part of our organization and really looking to drive reusable systems for the betterment of not only retail operations, but your shoppers as well from a sustainable and, of course, high quality value experience for them. So thank you again.
Thank you, Tim.
Next,
thank you.
Paul, thank you for joining us on behalf of Polymer Logistics. I've worked with you for a while, and it's great to finally see a lot of the work that you're doing and the recognition that we're able to take place here for Polymer Logistics. Thanks for bringing this case study to the attention and working with your valued partner Kroger and learning more about the CleanPal pallet and its award-winning design. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
If we could just do one photo for all of us here. And thank you.
All right.
Fantastic. Take it away.
All right.
Here's your slide clicker.
All right, there's the clicker. Perfect. So
let me switch presentations. That would help.
Want to sit down? That'd be fun.
Yeah, let's sit down.
Welcome to Joe and Paul's Fireside. So the CleanPal pallet, first of all, the CleanPal, what is it? It's nothing new, first of all. Nestable pallets have been around a long time. However, what the engineers in the R&D department at Polymer Logistics did was created something new out of something old. And it was very interesting, it was very novel. I wish to death I had thought of it, but the engineers were very clever and did something that I could never have thought of in a million years. But you'll see the differences in a few minutes. So we'll first get into what the market was. So pallets have been around forever. In the pallet system itself, right after World War II, they created a pallet system and it moved around everything since then. However, nothing really has changed, right? A block pallet, a wood pallet, plastic block pallet, plastic is kind of changing it. As some people used to say, when you move from wood to plastic, it's kind of paving the cow path, so to speak. You're really not changing anything. You're just making it bigger or better or faster or whatever like that. But the differences in the nestable pallet are profound. So in the old way of doing things, which is the traditional block or wood pallet, there's a lot of different things within the material and within the design that are inherently inefficient. So for example, wood. I'm a food safety guy, as Joe knows, and many of you. Wood is not necessarily the ideal food safe material. It's porous, it holds water, it holds other things you might not think about or might not want in your food or on your food, and it's inherently brittle. It breaks easy and it breaks often. So with a wood or block pallet, there's a stringer underneath that'll break often, which up to 40% of the time it'll break. A lot of damage and a lot of problems with that, as well as shipping it. There's a lot of empty space in between, as we know, for forks and everything like that. So these are some of the things, just a few, that are different. The space itself is up to 2/3 better in the nestable pallet, as well as shipping it 2/3 better. And we'll look at that. What are the main differences? So the big one obviously is space. You can fit up to 2/3 more nestables in the same area or in the same truckload by switching to a nestable pallet. We all know this. You can also have a lot better damage rates. There's no stringers to break underneath, so the damage rates are much lower. So overall, as an efficiency standpoint, that is going to be better overall. And of course the weight. So typical block pallets or GMA regular wood pallets are up to 50, 60, even 65 or 70 pounds, extremely heavy. The clean pallet is only 27 pounds, so quite light in comparison. Plus, as you can see, we also engineered handholds and we engineered specific things to make it more ergonomic and easier to move and easier to use. So all these things together created a pallet that is not only more efficient, not only cheaper to operate, but also more ergonomic and safer to use. The big innovation, right? We no longer paved the cow path. We blazed a new cow path. We don't want to say cow path, but we blazed a new trail on this thing. We really changed the fact, and again, this is the innovation piece of this product. There is a channel network, what we call an interlock deck on the pallet itself. Every RPC in the industry and in the market has a certain design that will now lock into the deck of the CleanPal. And if you go over to our booth just over the way, there's a 45-degree angled CleanPal that actually is holding RPCs in suspension on the pallet that no other pallet can do on the market today. This can be done with full-size pallets. It's an incredibly robust design. It not only locks the RPCs into the channeling network, but it also interlocks to make them safer in transit so the loads don't shift. It makes it safer in movement, so you can use less corner boards and strapping and save a lot of money in that respect. And of course, it's safer in the DCs and the retail stores because it's not going to fall and hurt things and break things. So it works with all three types: 4 down, 5 down, and 6 down RPCs in the industry. So it's a very, very clever design that has created a very interesting and a very useful pallet. So the actual case study we did, I'll let Joe talk about a little bit of that, and that is coming up right here.
Right, and this is really where we started to realize that everybody could gain value in this. And I think this is to what Tim spoke about earlier of designing value into a product, is where we understood we weren't trading one thing for the other. We recognized that the egg supplier could have benefit, Polymer would be more integrated into them, be able to offer them better service. our DCs are going to be able to handle something easier, and our stores are going to be able to get the product that they expect. And this is where the lights started to go off, and we realized that we wanted to commit ourselves to this, and we knew we couldn't go half a step in. We wanted to be fully committed and understand all the impacts of it, and I think this is where we really started to partner and have a really fun three-way discussions between us, our egg suppliers, and our whole supply chain network to understand how do we work together. Is this achievable, and quickly move past is this achievable to how is this achievable, and how do we take advantage of this. So we started to try to understand all of the flows, and obviously being very familiar with pooling, Kroger uses reusables throughout our network. We understood where the natural flow of it would be and had to determine, is that where this pallet's flow is going to be? There's oftentimes special cases. So worked very closely with Polymer and our partners at Midwest Poultry to understand where all are the shipments happening, what's the density of them, what are the seasonalities and the peaks, and how do we go all in on this type of a solution. And really understanding how Polymer's logistics network and our whole reverse logistics network can play to our favor. And it was something where we saw that, as Paul mentioned, the standardization of RPCs, this was a new way to take advantage of that. This is a way that we hadn't considered previously of how do we make our network better through the way that has already been standardized through the industry, and being able to take advantage of that, of building out the right handling processes within our DCs, within our stores, and doing a test that was really pretty much seamless within one of our distribution centers, finding out that this was very achievable and we could have a lot of success together with it. So it took some commitment on our end. So our DCs were not prepared to take a nestable pallet, and that's probably the first thing that's coming to mind, and say, hey, something had to happen here, and we did. We had to share in the investment of time and money and figure out, all right, how do we get our DCs to be able to handle these? And so we took a look at where all do we put our eggs, how well are we aligned within our distribution centers by our commodities, where are they being mixed, what happens right before Easter or baking season, what happens in those peak times of year, can we keep controls around that process? And we had to do a little bit of digging on our end to make sure that it would happen, and say this is a way we can take advantage of the benefits of the stackability, of the weight, of all the reasons, and the interstocks with the RPC to say this is something we need to do, and a great partnership that we formed in figuring out how do we get our DCs to be able to handle this. And so figuring out all of those different slots, what type of racking we had to make sure that it could handle that nestable pallet and be able to do it in a very safe way and get all of those other benefits that come along with steel mesh racking that you get along with that. This was our push to get into that realm. You want to talk a little bit about some of the testing you did at Midwest Poultry?
Mm-hmm. So Midwest Poultry was our guinea pig, so to speak, and they had a lot of really interesting ways they used the pallet. So they had already used both plastic and wood pallets. They prefer plastic just because they're a clean facility, but what they found that they really, really enjoyed with the Clean Pal was twofold. The first thing obviously was the interlock deck. It was very, very useful to them, and they even moved things around without wrap or headbands or straps or anything of any kind. You can see the second one on the top to the right, there's a guy named Mark. He's moving those things around. They moved the pallet with no straps, no wrap, anything like that, via forklift onto conveyors, just like it is. One simple piece of tape around the top was all they care about and all they use. It was a big deal for them because they saved about 26 cents per pallet in nothing but straps and corner boards that way. So obviously when you do several 100,000 pallets a year, that is a significant amount. The other piece that they really, really liked was the uniformity of the pallet. Because the Clean pallet is one injection molded pallet, it's the same uniform standard every time. It has the same dimensions every time. So Midwest Poultry is a very heavily automated facility. Most of their packing and most of their standardized work is done by robots and machines. Well, the first picture on the left, or whichever you can see if you're right, up there is one of their robotic stacking machines. It took, with a different pallet, it took 2.5 days to not only calibrate, but fix that machine to work with a different pallet. With the Clean Pal pallet, it took them just over 2 hours to calibrate the same machine. The reason for that is the uniformity of the pallet, the same dimension, the same standardized footprint every single time. This was something that when you equate into labor hours and especially engineering hours, it was a significant savings. So overall, they were very pleased with it. They love it. They're going to move forward with it, and we're very pleased with that.
And if I could add one thing there, it was beyond the uniformity of the pallet itself. it was the uniformity of that entire load. And that was the turning point, I think, for the Midwest Poultry team, is realizing that the pallet was no longer serving itself as just a platform. It was the overall vehicle for all of the product that was going on it. And I think that was the standardization we were able to take advantage of by utilizing CleanPal here, is realizing every layer, every 12-pack of eggs is always going to be in the exact same spot. And not all sites are as automated as a Midwest Poultry is, but it allowed them to take advantage of that in a way that they had never done before.
So the next part of the puzzle was the DC. So Midwest Poultry and the producer loved it. The DC, what's the next step? As Joe said, the DCs are not prepared to accept and rack or put above level any nestable pallet. So we developed a partnership in order to put mesh decking and put it up there so that could be allowed. The differences were, it seems subtle, it seems like not a big deal, but it actually is an extremely big deal for several reasons. Not only, and Joe can go into this as well, but not only for safety reasons, putting mesh up into a rackable solution and a rack network or scaffolding is inherently way safer. You won't have falling pallets, you won't have liabilities that way, so there are benefits from that account, from safety, but also for speed. You can see some of these forklift guys, and if you've ever been to a DC, they zip around like crazy. The CleanPal underneath and on the underside has innovation that's not really appreciated as much to us, but if you're an order selector, you can zip around really quickly because underneath there's rubber grommets that actually grip the metal forks on a forklift or a pallet jack. So Joe, plug your ears, they can speed around and not worry about taking corners really fast and go a lot more efficiently and a lot better and a lot quicker. So it is a real benefit for the DCs because they're faster and they're better. The differences in space are huge. As Joe or any of us in business can attest, a square foot in a DC is very expensive. When you triple the amount of square footage in your DC, prospectively, with this pallet versus traditional pallets, you're a very happy person. You're able to be more efficient and you're able to be in a way that's easier, and you will save more money by not having to build or do additional CapEx to build these things out and to accept other things.
Yeah, and I think the piece that I would add to that, beyond the mesh, where when it's being handled by a piece of equipment, you don't recognize how big that weight savings is. And like it or not, most pallets get handled by hand much more than we probably want them to. And that's been a huge benefit, is that they're throwing around a 27-pound pallet rather than a 60-pound pallet. And so we've gotten that feedback from the DC that they find that having an additional pallet, it is an additional SKU that we are dealing with there that we are sorting out. It's not that big of a deal because it's a lightweight pallet and they can kind of tuck it away and not have to think about it nearly as much as a new pile of whitewood pallets or something that's 6 inches thick that they've got to deal with. So that was a huge benefit to us.
So in summary, with this pallet, it is a big shift, both in ease of use, in weight differences, in some of these systems. And we call it a system for a reason. Joe mentioned it. Polymer likes to use a moniker or use a phrase, we are a smart retail solutions provider. And to my knowledge, this is the only pallet that is a system. You think of a pallet as a pallet. It's not really just a pallet. I guess if you take it home and make a chicken coop out of it, you could call it a system, but this is different. This actually marries an RPC to a mode of transport and to a level that, or a platform that is more efficient and more economical and more useful than anything we've ever had in markets. So using the CleanPal really does create something that is a smart retail solution, not only for the supplier or for the DC or for retail, but back again for people like poolers or providers like ourselves, because it is just inherently better, inherently more efficient, and more cost savings for everyone involved. So in summary, what the CleanPal does is it creates more efficient supply chains. It is lighter. It is more ergonomic than traditional pallets. It is more efficient because if you can pay for less pallet material or packaging material per pound of product, it'll save for the retailer and it'll save for the end consumer. It also is more durable because there's no stringers on the bottom to break. It's more efficient in that respect. And it's more economical, of course, through transport, through savings in storage, and through other modes of transport as well. And it's more capable. right? That interlock deck really does increase the efficiency of an already efficient platform like an RPC, and it benefits all that are using it. And of course, in my food safety world, it's sanitary. Not only sanitary, it's the only injection molded plastic pallet that will be used with RPC in a marriage that is very seamless, but it doesn't have any voids that may retain water. It's not a porous material that can soak up water or other microbiological problems or issues. And it really is a sanitary and safe pallet, hence the name Clean Pal. So it's something that we're very proud of, and I believe that we will keep pushing it and we'll keep using it both in supply chain, and we're very happy that Kroger has chosen us to increase their use in this in their supply chains as well.
Yeah, it's really been a win across the board, I think, for all of us. And we had several design changes early on. We said this is what's going to work, and I think it allowed us to step back and figure out what this new solution could look like that for a long time we had thought of as just another platform, and how we really harness that and make it a lot more seamless transition. And it's been a very successful execution of that up to this point.
Thank you very much.
So this is that third part where I want to join them and ask some specific questions associated with the sustainability initiatives of the company, building off of the award-winning presentation, and getting a little bit deeper, I think, in terms of where do you go from here. So I'm going to reset this just briefly here before I join you here. So give me about 30 seconds. And
any questions while Tim's doing that about what we've done with Clean Pal?
If we have the, thank you.
Get her mic'd up. Just shout.
No, I'm good. We don't need to move this off. No.
Any difficult?
Turn around.
No, I'm joking. Any difficulties in having multiple pallet types per DC?
Yeah, I don't know that there was any DC that got real excited when I told them there's going to be a new pallet coming in. They weren't jumping off, but I think that was something that we've learned to work through over the years, and it's another one on the list that it's obviously tougher to go if we had one pallet to go to two. That's a tougher. We're already used to doing some pallet sortation.
Right.
We made sure that this wouldn't get mixed in with anything else. You know, we have a pool of nestables that stay within Kroger as well. We made sure that it wasn't going to get lost in there, so we don't want it to work in either direction. So there was some of that, but I think because of the flexibility that Polymer did in setting up the reverse logistics network and making sure that we could return these in a few different channels, and really the ease of storage, I'll say, that because of the nestability, it allowed us to get to truckload quantities pretty quickly in the vast majority of our DCs. So naturally, you know, there's a few pains there, and just the guy who's got to handle one more that's out there, but we were able to bypass it really quickly with understanding the value of the mesh and the product that's on it.
What was the key to selling it to the DC managers?
I would say the inner stacking of the RPCs was huge. Paul talked about it, you know, and Nate from the Triana team talked about it earlier as well, about how wet products get, you know, and eggs are no different, and those pallets would get pretty slick sometimes. And I think for the DC guys to be able to see how quickly they can handle these, you know, both in the order selection process and the put away process, that was a turning point for them, where they said, this could be the last time I've got to clean up a pallet of eggs that tips over. And if you've ever had to do that, you know, there's few things in the world that you would want to do less. So that transition and realizing how much easier it would be for them to handle these and they wouldn't be dealing with that problem as much, that was a shifting point for them.
Yeah, I would agree with Joe completely. The biggest thing that we heard from a DC perspective or an order selector was the weight. It was a surprise. Every time they touched it, it was an eyebrow raise. It was a very pleasant surprise. Those are the unsung heroes of the retail supply chain, those order selectors. They move tens of thousands of pounds of product daily, each one of those guys, and they do it quickly, they do it efficiently. In order to cut half of the weight that they push around on those shoulders every day, I'm sure we won over some guys really quickly that way.
John, you had something as well? As in going into our stores? Week before Easter, yeah. And inherently some of these are going to go downstream, and I think when we're doing full pallet picks, that would be the only time that we would foresee it happening. But we've prepared ourselves to handle that, and so we said in those scenarios we're going to be ready for a little bit longer lag time and things cycling through, and we'll generally know. And we did some of that as part of our testing to see is there something we're missing, but it'll happen. Yeah. I mean, the amount of cases of eggs for how much we're doing of a pallet, I mean, probably it's 95% of the time it's going on an order selection pallet.
But we did do that previously. We ran the numbers with the suppliers and with Kroger and found that there's going to be a certain percentage that come down. So we prepared their reverse logistics system to accept those and be ready for those. And one of the design features that Joe responded about was we went through some changes. One of those changes was to make sure that the CleanPal does not mesh and nest currently with the existing pool, because if that happened, they would just kind of get lost and be a needle in a stack of needles, right? So we created that, and we changed some things to make sure that doesn't happen in order to separate the pools and make it more efficient.
Well, thank you. Excellent questions. And if I can continue that, the Reusable Packaging Excellence Award really focuses on two areas. That's economic benefit and environmental benefit, economic savings and improvements within the environmental footprint of that application. And that's where some people interested in entries to the award go through the process of quantifying the impact on both the economic and the environmental level. But that's what you've outlined here with the Clean Pallet within this particular program, is that you're able to achieve both. Sustainability in terms of reducing waste, improving in terms of not only solid waste, but food waste, but also the economic benefits that are all driving through. You mentioned a lot in terms of your cube utilization of the product in the warehouse application. So there's driving forces at Kroger, for example, on how you're looking at projects. Innovation is a big part of Kroger's sustainability initiatives, this being an innovative product that you're bringing to market. But it's all moving based on some larger goals at Kroger around sustainability. I had a chance to look on your website, and not only with the Zero Hunger, Zero Waste initiative, which we'll talk about, but your sustainability report that you issued just this year is fantastic as far as what Kroger has set out to achieve this year in the world of sustainability. So you've got some really high-level initiatives in place, starting with the Zero Hunger, Zero Waste, because that's something that Kroger's really behind and moving and committed to achieving with all of the communities that Kroger serves within all of your operations of eliminating waste. Joe, from a high level, what can you tell me a little bit about the Zero Hunger, Zero Waste and how that has picked up over the company once initiated within your business and as part of your overall daily focus with Zero Hunger, Zero Waste?
Sure. So we really declared Zero Hunger, Zero Waste as a corporate initiative about 3 years ago, and it's rooted in a couple different things. One is 40% of the food that's made is wasted. So we've probably all heard stats similar to that. But as an unfortunate counter, about 1 in 8 people are at risk of not having enough food. They're food sensitive, as we say. So taking advantage of both of those from the food side, but as part of that, we said we're having a lot of waste that's not food, and so we wanted to start understanding how much is in our packaging. Where can we take out waste? And it really routed itself in the reduce, reuse, recycle as those being our priorities. So where can we take out packaging we don't need? Where can we remove things that are being wasted? We've got a goal by 2025 to remove all single-use plastic bags that happen in our stores. So going to customers using reusable bags or direct home shipments, things like that. And as we started to look and started to create a lot deeper partnerships, we tried to understand where are we not taking advantage of this circular economy. We've created a partnership with Loop, and Tim talked about them earlier. Loop and TerraCycle are two very fascinating companies that we want to partner with to try to understand where do we need to help develop industries. And that's part of the fun of working at the scale of Kroger, is learning from small partnerships that can happen maybe in a metro Seattle, but we want to figure out how do we make it happen in Kansas or in Cincinnati or in Atlanta. and learning from those and figuring out where can we help to leverage some of our scale and some of our partnerships with the industry to try to drive it to be more effective, because it is industries. We want to have it work, but it does have to pay the bills at some point. And I think recognizing where we can either reduce whether it's packaging waste, whether it's transportation waste. With CleanPal, we fit an extra pallet of eggs on every truck that's coming out of Midwest Poultry. It's huge. I don't know the numbers. Paul knows them better than I do, but that was big. So being able to take advantage of those and looking for some of those multi-tiered solutions is what Zero Hunger, Zero Waste has really pushed us to, and recognizing where do we have better partnerships with food banks, with suppliers, and with our customers to really understand what we're trying to do, and that we're all in this together. We are all customers, and that's part of being a retailer is being a little bit more self-aware and trying to work upstream and down.
Paul, and following that, with the retail specialty that Polymer Logistics offers and bringing innovation that go through retail supply chains, execute and perform at the store level, when you're looking at new solutions or ideas to bring that level of value and sustainability, how high is that on the list in terms of waste elimination, trying to meet the goals of the corporate setting? Is that something you factor in early of looking at how design could further eliminate waste within the system? And that's an important part of what reusable packaging is delivered. Tell me a little bit about your approach in the sense of new products and innovation that is bringing to market for customers like Kroger.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I wouldn't say it's the primary, but it always becomes the primary, right? So the primary focus of our company is a smarter retail solutions partner. So, and that partnership and that smarter retail solution, it works hand in hand. So whenever there's an issue or whenever there's something that is innovative or something that's novel that we think would be a benefit, we run it through. We always go to Kroger or go to another retailer or any customer that we might have, and we present it to them. A lot of ideas are kind of harebrained ideas that never make it. But every once in a while you hit on something that actually is very innovative and very useful. And we're very fortunate to have a partnership with Kroger that allows that collaboration and, quite frankly, a wet lab, so to speak, to be able to do these things and to be able to have these innovations come to light and kind of grow into something very, very important.
Well, that's something I definitely caught on with your presentation and now your comments, is that collaboration, that you're just not looking at one up, one back in terms of impact of reusable packaging. You're looking at through the entire system. And so you want to bring together the parties that have touch points and vested interest in performance of that packaging all the way through its reuse cycle, which is just not at the end of point of sale, let's say. And so it's important when you're designing that project to really drive out the benefits to have that collaboration abroad. You found that with the egg supplier and other with the warehouses? Eventually they came along and all under the same goal. I would imagine that was an important part of achieving success here.
Absolutely. I think part of being able to take advantage of reusables is having a flexible and an agile network, and it taught us where we had to come up with a new solution or where we had to adapt this solution to say, when it's going to go to a store, how's it going to be handled? How are we going to process this? If it's peak season and we're doing twice as many eggs as we expected to, where are we going to put it? So we kind of played through a lot of those different scenarios, and we had to be very open and transparent with each other. And I think we learned that through our experience as an RPC provider as well, and Midwest Poultry as well, that we could all have an open discussion about where our strengths and our weaknesses were and how do we take advantage of those. And I think that's something that we've got to continue to look at with our supplier relationships, is leveraging each other's strengths, not just a customer-supplier relationship. It's been too one-directional for a long time, and I think we want to be the first to really put our neck out there and say, how do we become a better customer, and how do we share in some of that value and transparency?
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah, just to add on that, it's really nice to know that our companies both together are confident enough in developing products that do not work with our product. Right? The CleanPal is specifically designed to work with not just ours, but other RPC providers, with other products like Corrugate. It has specific design features in there to work not just for RPC, with Corrugate or with other RPC providers. So it's something that we're proud of. We're able to know our limitations and know our size and know our scope and know our role with our primary customer, Kroger, to be able to design something that works for everyone.
Well, reuse as a source reduction is very much highlighted within Kroger's objectives and sustainability, and looking at how more reusable applications can drive out waste to be a part of your efficiencies, but also the zero hunger, zero waste. It was reported that in 2018, Kroger used 160 million reusable plastic containers, RPCs, with your fresh produce alone. And that number has grown. And so clearly there's a lot of commitment around reuse from Kroger, not only in adopting it with your supply chain, but also with how it's working within your partners and your systems. Where do you see reuse in particular of packaging as part of the next phase or continued phase of zero hunger, zero waste? Is that something that we have got more room to grow in terms of opportunities with reuse and Kroger's positioning on that? Maybe just give me some sense in terms of reuse from the strategic objective of Kroger with zero hunger, zero waste.
Sure. So the way RPCs work best for our retailers when we don't have to think about them all that much, and we kind of like to play dumb like that every now and then, is to say, just make it work. We want them to be there. We want them to be on time. We want them to be put together without labels, yada, yada, yada. And I think the way that there is growth is by the industry has recognized how they work together very well. And when I came into this position a couple of years ago, it became a real charge of ours is to get everybody to play nice in the sandbox and say, okay, yes, you're competitors, but not when you're talking to Kroger, you're not. You all have to work together. We are going to leverage all of our collective networks. And it's much more of the we and the our, and that we're trying to take advantage of. So there's absolutely room to growth because I think everybody has more capabilities probably than we're taking advantage of now. And certainly when it comes to the packaging providers is understanding, well, sure, yep, you guys made RPCs. Maybe you do make a pallet, and I don't think if you'd asked us 2 years ago, if we'd probably had no idea that Polymer was making a pallet, but it worked out. And I think everybody has a lot of capabilities that we need to take advantage of. So I think there is certainly room for growth just in the industry kind of maturing and understanding how it complements itself and how it complements a multitude of retailers. And then obviously the natural evolution into e-commerce and understanding how do we serve the breadth of customers and their diverse flavors that much more. So I think that's where it's got a substantial room to grow, that we're going to be moving products that many more times potentially, or to that many more new locations. And how do we recognize where we have, whether it's population centers or empty miles to take advantage of? That's going to be another growth of reusables.
So my last question is in regards maybe on the hunger side, but also with waste, and it's food waste. You had mentioned earlier about 40% of the food that's produced in this country is never consumed. And there's a big effort, obviously, with Kroger and trying to take advantage of that. From the hunger side, it's so impressive what you're striving to do in communities to make sure that all the stores and the communities involved have the nutrition and the food products available to them. But reusable packaging products also plays a role in reducing food waste. We see that with perishable products as far as ventilation and product protection, adding shelf life, extended life of perishable product because of the cut to cool properties it has with reusable packaging. Maybe drawing from this award-winning with the submission with the pallet, with the RPCs and eggs, do you see an impact with reusable packaging as it comes to reducing food waste? And that's another exciting element of the opportunity with reusables. Paul, maybe from the data?
Yeah, so we can take eggs as a great example. So over the time that we transitioned eggs from corrugated into RPCs, it about cut our shrink in half. So it was a huge benefit, and that was due to the cold chain. And Midwest Poultry would be the first to tell you, they love RPCs because they don't have to have as much inventory. All those eggs have to be sub 40 degrees, I believe it is, before they leave. And they used to take 7 days to get down to temperature. And so that was 7 days worth of inventory they had to be sitting on before they could ship it to a Kroger DC. It took 24 hours when we moved to RPCs. I think the CleanPal, now that it has its ventilation that's built in, we could potentially cut some even more time out of that. So I think that transition to RPCs has been hugely valuable. And obviously you can go back to milk crates and bread trays and understand some of the value that they brought to it. And CleanPal is just another way that we can take advantage of that and be able to utilize ventilation, as you said earlier, Tim. It's building value into what was once more of a commoditized item, and that's what we want to continue to look for in our partnerships.
And you're seeing that with retail products, even beyond eggs, fresh produce, perishables, that protective nature, that ability to keep products cool at the right temperature all the way to point of sale. That's part of a lot of the research that you bring to the market with your new products, I would imagine.
Yes, absolutely. So consumers are inherently fickle. So if it's ugly produce, or if it's slightly off color, or if it's got a fingerprint on it in some respects, people won't buy it. So that shrink is not only costly, but it's from a financial standpoint, it's costly from a sustainability standpoint as well. So everything that is thrown away, we have to produce and make more of. And these products that Polymer brings to Kroger are really innovative in the respect that they increase efficiencies within the supply chain themselves. So for all the inefficiencies that we currently have and that we can eliminate through efficient products like CleanPal or RPCs or anything else, is less overall need for the system itself. So that means more savings for Kroger, that means more savings for consumers, and overall more sustainability and longevity for the planet.
This is our 8th year of the Excellence in Reusable Packaging Award. It's so much special to have and be able to honor your programs and your work as regards to reusable packaging performance and sustainability within your supply chain. So thank you very much for being a part of it, for sharing your story, to allowing us to capitalize on the lessons learned, to be able to educate about what's taking place out there and what benefits reusable packaging provides for your real commercial world environment. So congratulations again to Kroger and Polymer Logistics, and thanks for spending a little time with us here today. It was definitely worth it, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.